friends. Hi friends.
Good morning to my dear students. So today we will discuss interdisciplinary areas in our industrial robotics. Okay, interdisciplinary areas, which is known as so other than mechanical engineering subjects which are involved in industrial robotics. Okay, so under mechanical engineering branch, so we are going to learn about industrial robotics. We are actually doing kinematic analysis, dynamic analysis, and sensing information. So in kinematic analysis, what we do is we study the motion of robo arm without considering the forces and movements. So that is known as kinematic analysis. So in dynamic analysis, so we are going to study the forces and movements. Okay, so forces and movements, how they are applied on industrial robotics. We are going to study. So about sensing, so we are collecting the information of the environment which surrounds the industrial robotics. Okay, so for example, so how much force is applied on industry, how much weight is carrying out the industrial robotics. It is those information is collected. Say in sensing point of view. So coming to the computer science and engineering, so those people who are actually doing motion planning. Okay, motion planning, for the motion planning, they are going to write the programming the okay. So computer science. So and artificial intelligence. So nowadays it is very prominent subject in automation subjects. Okay, so artificial intelligence in which so actually it is designed to uh, develop suitable brain for the robots. Suitable brain for the robots. Okay, so artificial intelligence. Next, coming to the electrical and electronics engineering. So, electrical engineers and electronics, they actually do the control systems and hardware implementations in industrial robotics. So, different controllers, so they are the electrical engineers, so they will design and they will suggest the hardwares which are available for the industrial robotics. So, they will suggest. And so, we should also know such subjects. industrial robotics point of view, you should also know those about those subjects thoroughly. So at least minimum how the hardware is working in industrial robot, you have to know. Okay, so general sciences. So in robotics, there are physics principles which are involved, and mathematics formulations we are going to study in industrial robotics. Okay, so these are the interdisciplinary areas. You need to get the knowledge from these interdisciplinary areas also. Okay, so next I'm going to discuss degrees of freedom. So what is the definition of degrees of freedom? So it is actually defined the minimum number of independent parameters or coordinates or variables which are needed to describe any system thoroughly or any system completely. So such independent parameters are known as degree of freedom. So here some notes. So for example, you consider a point, so which is located in 2D space, two-dimensional space. So that point, so we have 2 degrees of freedom. So 2 degrees of freedom, either x or y, that point can move. So that point has 2 independent motions or 2 independent coordinates which can move in xy directions. So similarly, suppose that same point which is in, we assumed in we assumed in 3D space. So that point has 3 degrees of freedom, x, y, and z. Suppose a rigid body. So it may be a rod, it may be an object, a regular object. So any rigid body, which is which is in 3D space. So such body has 6 degrees of freedom. So what are those? So x, y, z. So linear translations along those directions. So in addition to those linear transformations, here the rigid body we have rotational degrees of freedom, which are about x-axis it has rotational, about y-axis it has rotational, and about z-axis. So any rigid body which is in 3D space, it has 6 degrees of freedom, among which 3 are the translation motions and 3 are the rotational motions. So similarly, now the spatial manipulator. So spatial manipulator means jointed arm manipulator. So jointed arm industrial robot. So which is spatial. So that manipulator are 6 degrees of freedom. So those 6 degrees of freedom, which are applicable for the wrist end. So wrist end, for the wrist end, these 6 degrees of freedom will be applicable. So suppose planar manipulator. So planar manipulator means this manipulator which moves in a plane only. So such plane manipulator will have 3 degrees of freedom only. So the wrist end which can move either x or y, so linear translations. In addition to those linear translations, there are one rotational translation about z-axis, so that manipulator has rotational motion. So planar manipulator has 3 degrees of freedom, spatial manipulator has 6 degrees of freedom. Okay. So let us discuss the degrees of freedom of a joint. So previously you learned some of the joints, types of joints, okay, such as the linear joint, twisting joint, bending joint, those joints, okay, and their notations also you learned. Okay, so here my intention is to tell you which joint has how many degrees of freedom. Okay, so here let us categorize this joint based on degrees of freedom. So first of all, joints with 1 degree of freedom. So joints with 1 degree of freedom. So revolute joint is so one kind of joint which has only 1 degree of freedom. So that degree of freedom is rotational. So rotational about an axis, So that joint has 1 degree of freedom. So there are on this joint there are 5 degrees of freedom are completely constant. Okay. So next, twisting joint. So again, this twisting joint has 1 degree of freedom only. Okay, and prismatic or linear joint. So this linear joint sometimes it is called prismatic. It is actually denoted as capital L. So sometimes it is also denoted as capital P, prismatic joint. So this linear joint has only translation motion in one direction. So the remaining other two translation and three rotation is completely constrained. So these are the 1 degree of freedom joints. So next, joints with 2 degrees of freedom. So joints with 2 degrees of freedom. So let us consider cylindrical joint. So this cylindrical joint has 2 degrees of freedom. So this joint, it can move along the axis of the cylinder and it has the rotational motion about the axis of the cylinder. So the cylindrical joint has 2 degrees of freedom. So rotational as well as translation. So degrees of freedom are involved in this cylindrical joint. Next, hoop joint or universal joint. So again, it has 2 degrees of freedom. Okay. You know about hoop joint and universal joint. So let us okay. So after the class, you check the hoop joint, how many degrees of freedom it has. You check it at home. So next, so joints with 3 degrees of freedom. Okay, it is obviously ball and socket joint. It is also known as a spherical joint. It is denoted as S. So this ball and spherical joint you learned in theory of machines. So where you can see that ball and socket joint has 3 degrees of freedom. Okay, so two linear, one rotational. So industrial robots. Industrial robots, it is actually, so how do we define before the actual definition of the industrial robot? So here, so kinematically, I define this industrial robot as the spatial arrangement of the axis of motion. So in relation to one another. So here in this figure, let us observe at each joint. So there is a coordinate. There is a coordinate at each and every joint. There are the coordinates which are arranged in a spatial. So those axes, and also they are in relation to one another. So such arrangement of the links and joints and spatial axes are known as kinematically, it is known as the industrial robot. Okay. So for example, so this robot has a 1 degree of freedom joint. So that robot has a 6 degrees of freedom. So for example, if this jointed arm robot has 4 joints, so with 1 degree of freedoms, so that robot has 3 degrees of freedom. 4 degrees of freedom. 4 joints, each one has 1 degree of freedom. So that robot has 4 degrees of freedom. Okay, the wristband will have 4 degrees of freedom. 3 translations and 1 rotational degree of freedom. Okay. So that kind of robo we have in our ARC lab. Okay, so here the manipulators which are having degrees of freedom more than the manipulator in general. So manipulator in general. So for example, more or less degrees of freedom. So for redundant manipulator. So which means that so this manipulator will have so either a spatial manipulator, either a spatial manipulator with more than 6 degrees of freedom, or a planar manipulator with more than 3 degrees of freedom. So such manipulator will call it as a redundant manipulator. Okay. So if that manipulator is a spatial manipulator, which has more than 6 degrees of freedom, so that robo is called redundant manipulator. If it is the manipulator is a planar manipulator, so it's more degrees of freedom more than 3 degrees of freedom. So that is also a spatial redundant manipulator. So underactivated manipulator, it is obviously degrees of freedom less than 6 or 3 degrees of freedom. Okay. So spatial manipulator with less than 6 degrees of freedom or planar manipulator less than 3 degrees of freedom. Such robos are underactivated manipulators. So next, end effectors. So in this today's class, I would like to explain once again about end effectors. So in this class, I would like to more prominent about end effectors. So what are the requirements to end effectors and what are the challenges we have to face while designing the end effectors? So those points I will discuss in this class. Okay. So, you know, what end effector is, so one of the robust external device, which is attached to the robust wrist end, which is attached to the end of the wrist. Okay. So here the term end effector, which is actually used to describe so either hand or foot. Okay. So this end effector, it can be used as a hand for gripping or for holding an object, or it can be act as a tool for the specific applications such as welding, spot welding, etc. Okay. So first, if it acts as a hand, so that is known as grippers. Okay. So grippers are used to grasp an object. So usually that an object is work for and hold it during the entire work cycle. Okay, that gripper what will do? So we hold the object so during the work cycle of the rope. So there are a variety of holding devices. So in addition to 2 or more fingers. Okay, so 2 finger grippers we have seen, 3 fingers, 4 fingers grippers are we have seen. So in addition to those grippers, so we have another grippers which are also used to hold the object. So those are suction cups. Okay, suction cups which are actually activated by pneumatic pressure. Okay, compressed air. By using compressed air, so these suction cups will be activated. Okay, so there are magnetic grippers. Okay, so by using magnetic force, so those grippers hold the ferrous materials, ferrous objects. Okay, so magnetic grippers. So there are hooks and scoops. Can also be used for holding the object in industrial robot as a grippers. Okay, so this is a two finger gripper. So this is two finger gripper. So this is four finger gripper. So this is four finger gripper. So there are types of different types of grippers. Mechanical grippers, suction cups or vacuum cups. So magnetized grippers, hooks and screws. Okay, so types of grippers. So next, end effector used as a tool. Here, a tool is used as an end effector in some applications where the robot is required to perform some operation on the workpiece. For example, spot welding. So for spot welding application, so we are going to use a tool, spot welding gun, spot welding gun as a tool, which is fixed to the end of the wrist. Okay, so that will act as a tool. So similarly, arc welding. So arc welding, electrode holder as a tool, and spray painting. So spray gun is a tool in spray painting operation, and drilling operation. So there is a drill bit is used as a tool in drilling operation. Okay. Okay, so this is spot welding gun. So this part spot welding gun. So this spot welding gun directly fits it to the end of the wrist. So here, so this is so spray painting gun. So this is also so spray painting gun. Okay, so tools, spot welding gun, arc welding tools, spray painting gun, drilling spindles, grinders. So grinding wheel is directly fixed to the end of the wrist. Grinders as tools, wire presses for cleaning purpose, heating torches. So sometimes, so heat the surface of the object. So we need to mount the heating torches to the end of the wrist. Okay. So actually, these end effectors are custom designed end effectors, custom designed devices. So which are designed based on the application. Based on the application, we need to design before starting the actual application. Okay, so these are fabricated from scratch to the finished to the final product we need to design. So or else, so so there are some tools or some end effectors which are predefined and which are available commercially available devices in the market. So those end effectors directly we can go to market and purchase those end effectors and fix to the industrial robot. You can do like that also. Okay. Or else, in most of the cases, applicant he will design end effector by his own. See here, the person who is guiding the industry logo. So actually, so the end effector here on this industry logo is a some kind of tool, drill bit. So drill bit it is fixed in the drill holder. Okay, so this drill holder is attached to the end of the piece. Okay. So the person who is trying to give the lead through program to the industry logo. So lead through program means that he's so by his hands he is guiding the industry logo to the required path of the application. To the required path of the application. So the controller reads it as a program in the controller system. Okay, so here the person is trying to paint a car, some paint a wall, whatever it may be. So here, uh, so you see in this top figure, so there is a car body. There is a car body. Okay. So it is painted by an industry logo. Okay. So here you observe the end of the wrist. So there is a spray gun. So it sprays the paint on the car. So here also the person who is trying to guide the robot by his hands. So by his hands. So this is also called lead through programming. Lead through programming. So spray painting with manual lead through programming. Okay, so here my intention in this figure, the tool spray gun attached to the end of the wrist, I want to show in this figure. So this is the spray gun. Okay. Okay. So next, let us discuss what are the requirements and challenges of of end effector. Okay. You know, there are many factors which are influencing the gripping action of the end effector. So let us consider those factors for gripping the requirements. Okay, the first one. So the surface of the work, the surface of an object, which is going to be grasped by an industry robot. So that surface, it must be reachable. So within the work volume of the industrial robot, it must be reachable. It must be near to the industrial robot. Okay. So for example, so an object which is fixed in a check on a lathe, which is fixed in a check on a lathe, or other holding fixtures. Okay. Suppose you want to pick that object. You want to pick that object by using industry robot. Is it possible? So not possible because that surface of the object which is in the holding which is in the lathe check. So the robot cannot pick that particular surface of the object. Okay. So The surface and object must be free from all other holding devices. From all other holding devices, it must be free and it must be reachable to the industry door. Okay. So the next one. So size variation. Okay. For example, so while manufacturing a part on a lathe. Okay, so before finishing, before machining of an object, so the object is a raw material. So as a raw material, the size of the object is bigger than the finished product after manufacturing the finished product. So the size variation, the robo it has to consider. It has to consider while picking the object. Okay, so that kind of variation, industrial robot, if it is not programmed, okay, so then industrial robot cannot hold. Okay, so size variation during the process must be considered. So while designing the end effect. Okay, so that is the designer should know the size variation of an object. So while designing the end effect. So the next one, so consider the problem of scratching and distorting the part during dipping. Suppose an object which is a fragile material. Fragile material means glass materials. So glass materials are delicate surfaces. The object has delicate surfaces. So in order to hold such an object, okay, so the grippers which are having a hard surface, suppose the gripper surface are hard. So while gripping such objects, fragile materials, so some scratches will be happened on the surface of the object. So those problems we need to consider. So while designing the end. Okay. Next, the next point is, if there is a choice between two different dimensions on a part. So, for example, an object has many. There are different joints and different dimensions. So, larger dimensions and smaller dimensions. So, which dimension the robo has to pick? So, that is very, very important. So, here obviously, robo always choose the larger dimension of the object for gripping purpose. Okay. So the larger dimension should be selected for grasping. So why the larger surface should be selected by the industry robo? So it has a better gripping and as well as stability of the part in positioning between the fingers. Okay. So in order to get the stability of the part in the fingers and in order to in order to get the better gripping of the object, so in between fingers. Okay. So large dimension portions, large dimension surfaces to be held by the industry robo. Okay. So gripper fingers can be designed to confirm the shape of the part by using resilient pads or self-aligning fingers. And self-aligning fingers ensure that each finger makes contact with the part in more than one place. So this provides better part control and physical stability. Okay. So here, resilient pads are self-aligning fingers. Self-aligning fingers are used in grippers as a gripper fingers. So because so those kind of fingers so will ensure uh, so better contact of the different parts of the object, different parts of the object. So here also those will give better gripping or control and physical stability so within the fingers. Okay. The fingers which can be replaceable. So because uh, we, we need to change the fingers only. So when the grippers are damaged or when the grippers are worn out, we need to change just only the fingers of the end effect or gripper. So that is in the point of view cost point of view. So we replace only the fingers of a gripper. And the problem of determining the magnitude of the grasping force that can be applied to the object by the gripper. Okay. So here we need to design how much force is applied on the object while gripping the gripper. Okay. So this is also more important. So precisely the designer has to do so precisely how much force is required to hold the different objects in the work volume. Okay. So what are the factors to determine such a grasping force? Okay. So we need to consider the weight of the object. Okay. How much force is required, grasping force is required. And the second factor is how much speed and acceleration with which the robot arm moves to grasp the object. So that is also you need to remember when designing the gripper. And the orientational relationship between the direction of movement and the position of the fingers on the object. And the final one, quotient of friction between the object and the gripper fingers. Okay, so friction between object and gripper fingers they play most prominent role when gripping the object or determining the grasping force. So these are the four factors we need to consider when designing grasping force. How much is grasping force is required to hold an object. Okay. So this is about today's lecture. So let us look at the briefly the summary of the today's lecture. Okay. So we are actually at the end of the second unit. This is the last part one topic. Whatever the topic I discussed today, this is last part one. So one more topic. The one more topic. I will finish the second unit also. Okay. Okay. In the next week, I will discuss the third unit. Okay. So coming to the summary of the today's lecture. So initially, we discussed about the interdisciplinary areas in the industrial robotics. So in addition to mechanical knowledge, you need to know the knowledge of computer science, how to program a motion plan. So artificial intelligence, the subject which is how to use in this industrial robot. So while designing the actual brain of the industrial robot, you need to know the subject artificial intelligence. So in addition to computer knowledge, so there are electrical and electronics knowledge should also you have controls about control systems and hardware implementations. Different hardwares which are involved in industry. We need to know about all those things. And there are principles in physics and mathematics, so you need to know. Okay, so next, I define degrees of freedom of the system. And there are, I discussed standard notes which are applicable in degrees of freedom. And here I define joints based on degrees of freedom. So what is kinematically how we define industry robot? Okay, so there are when degrees of freedom more than 6 or 3 degrees of freedom. So that robots are called redundant manipulators. And the degrees of freedom which are less than 6 or 3, such manipulators are called underactivated manipulators. Okay, and effectors, it's an additional device which is attached to the end of the wrist. Okay, so it can be used to describe the hand or foot. So there are grippers, mechanical grippers, suction cups, or vacuum cups, magnetized grippers, etc. And so tools. Okay, sometimes the end effector can be used as a tool in some applications, such as spot welding, arc welding, spray painting, and filling application. Okay, so actually end effectors are custom designed for the particular task which is to be performed. So these are fabricated from scratch, or else you can purchase in the market also. There is a standard and effectors available. Okay, here the drill tool, is attached to the end of the wrist. Okay, the person who is trying to guide the tool by lead to program. So here the spray gun attached to the wrist. So here the industry robot is painting the car body. Okay, so requirements and challenges of end effectors. So the designer who designs the end effector, we need to consider these requirements and challenges. Okay, first part surface, it must be reachable for the industry for the robot. And size variation, it needs to consider before finishing and after finishing of the object. While machining, loading and unloading application. Okay, so next, the problem of scratching. Okay, to avoid scratches on object, so based we need to fulfill that requirement. In that aspect, we need to design that end effect. And So there are different dimensions such as the larger dimensions and smaller dimensions. So the robo, it always choose a larger dimension portion of the object to hold it, but because it gives better stability and better gripping action on the object. And so there are grippers which are having self-aligning fingers and resilient pads. So which are also used for handling the object in a better position, better gripping and physical stability. Okay. So whenever there are wear and tear on end effector, so we need to change only fingers only. So okay, so cost point of view, changing fingers is it involves less cost. So next, grasping force. How much grasping force is required for different objects to hold? Okay, so designing or estimating the grasping force to hold an object, we need to consider some factors which are known as, so weight of the object we need to consider firstly, and the second one, how much speed and acceleration the robo arm can move within what volume to hold the object, and the orientational relationship between the direction of movement and the position of fingers on the object. So we need to consider to estimate the grasping force, and coefficient of friction between the object and grip fingers. So these are the four factors which are essential to estimate the grasping force. So this is about today's lecture. So do we have any clarification? Do we need any clarifications or any doubts? So please raise your hand. I will allow you to speak. So do we have any doubts? Raise your hand, please. Or else you can type your doubt in chat box. So raise your hand. I will allow you to speak. Okay, no chat, no hand raise. Okay, you have no doubts. Okay, thank you very much. My dear students, do you have any doubts? Unmute yourself and speak. Okay, thank you very much. I'm leaving.